Hello. Am I late? Oh, 2 minutes late. Sorry, guys. We were just having a check behind the scenes. But welcome to the Ravit Show. I have a very, very special guest today. And I've been, I think, talking to Dr. Kirk Borne since forever now. And we've been deciding when should we go, when will he be live on the Ravit Show. And the day has just come today. So a little about Kirk. Obviously, he's like worldwide top influencer since 2013. I don't think 2013, it's way, way, way before that. And he's a data scientist, global speaker, consultant, space scientist, big data, and obviously data science advisor, TEDx speaker, researcher, blogger, data literacy advocate, and a lot more. Now, before calling in Dr. Kirk, obviously, I would love to thank our partners, 365 Data Science and How to Get Analytics Jobs by Albert and John. So, before any further ado, hey Kirk, welcome to the Ravit Show.
Ravit,
I love your background.
It's great to be here. I'm falling into my double black hole this morning.
Kate is here.
There's room for two. There's two black holes. Let's all fall in together.
Looks very cool.
It is Kate. I see Kate commenting. Yes. Hello, Kate.
Yeah, we are dedicated.
Dedicated. We're all dedicated.
Yes.
And I'm sure.
Yeah.
Hello.
Dr. Tariq is here.
All right. If we say hello to everyone, we'll be here all morning, all afternoon, all evening. So, but well, thank you all for joining.
Yes.
From Washington,
Thanks, Bill, for joining.
There's Bill right down the street from me. Anyway.
Okay, Kirk. For everyone you're joining in, they would obviously want to hear about you and obviously about your new journey, which is at DataPrime.ai. So first thing, why not let's start with introducing you. Can you just do that for us?
Yeah, so my background is astrophysics. So there's an astronomy background behind me. So my big background has been astrophysics. Ever since I was a child, I wanted to be an astronomer. I have a PhD in astronomy from Caltech, and I did astronomy data systems as my regular day job for NASA for 20 years. So I would tell people I would do data by day and data by night as an astronomer. So I was always working with data, whether it's in data systems for the space mission projects at NASA or data analysis for my astronomy projects. And that was about 20 years of work. And about a little over 20 years ago, I discovered this thing called data mining. So data mining, which we would probably just now call data science, but we didn't have the word data science back then. Introduced me to a whole new kind of math called machine learning, which even though I had tons of math in my physics and astronomy courses, I had tons of math, but I never saw machine learning, these techniques for building predictive models from patterns and data. And so I just got infatuated with it, loved it, started doing it. And after 20 years at NASA, I left NASA, I went to George Mason University, became professor of astrophysics. So I never actually taught astrophysics courses, even though I was professor of astrophysics. But what we did there was we started the world's first undergraduate data science degree program. And so we started that program about 14 years ago. We already had a graduate program in computational informatics and statistics. So that was basically, again, data science. So we had the graduate and undergraduate programs. So I was doing what I loved. I loved sharing and teaching and learning about stuff and teaching other people about stuff. And after doing that for a number of years, I was started getting calls from companies to consult with them and to advise them using data science. So eventually this big consulting company, Booz Allen Hamilton, called me about 6 years ago and offered me a job I couldn't refuse. So I left my tenured full professorship at a university, my dream job,
exactly,
to go to this company where they made me their first data science fellow, their first principal data scientist, and also executive advisor. So I got to do all the things I love doing: teaching, training, mentoring, advising, consulting, writing, public speaking, social promoting, everything. So my dream job. And so that was 6 years ago, and then a little over 1 month ago, I left that, and now working for a new company, a startup actually, DataPrime, which we'll talk about more later. But so I'm on my next new adventure. So I tell people my life has always been around data discovery, from data science discovery. My wife once said to me, "You've had many careers," and I said, "No, I've only had one career. That's as a scientist. I've always been interested in discovery from data." And so that's my 40 years in 40 seconds.
No, but I think it's quite a journey, Kirk, obviously, because coming from a background which is obviously astrophysicist, and now you are such a big influencer in AI and data. I wouldn't put AI out of that, because obviously I know you're making some amazing strides in the AI world as well. So it's huge. And to ask you, how has that journey been from being an astrophysicist to someone today where you are talk of the town and you are in demand everywhere? Wherever I see you, people are asking, maybe I've just got a date with you, like after almost 6 to 7 months, because obviously your calendar is just packed for maybe the next 6 months more. You'll have your calendar packed. So how has this journey been in can you just tell us how does it feel?
Well, it feels kind of crazy most days.
Exactly.
a lot of the stuff, but really I guess the two sort of joys I have in my career are both discovery, scientific discovery from data, and teaching.
Yep.
Basically teaching and training of people. And so I actually got on Twitter. I just passed my 9-year anniversary on Twitter, so next year will be my 10 years on Twitter. And
Wow.
I used Twitter initially just as my micro education platform. So I just shared data science and AI and machine learning stuff with people, 140 characters at a time. And then Twitter changed all that and gave us 280 characters.
Exactly.
So I was just doing what I love doing. I just love sharing and teaching and training and informing people, because the world is influenced by data, driven by data, informed by data, innovation from data. Everything is driven through some kind of digital signals, digital information. And so I just did that because I loved it, until one day in 2013. So it was 2013. 8 years ago, I appeared at the top of a list of top worldwide big data influencers, and I didn't even know what that meant. Some friend of mine on Twitter said, "Hey, you're the top influencer in the world." I never even heard that terminology before. I didn't know what a social influencer was. I just thought of people like Justin Bieber and Beyonce and people like that. Oh, they're social influencers. I don't understand why am I a social influencer? But it's always been about sharing the love of discovery, sharing the love of what data can do for transforming business, transforming social causes, transforming our world. And I just love it.
Data above all, I think, obviously the journey has been, when you say, back in 2013, yes, obviously no one might have even thought that there's something, obviously like the top influencers or something, but maybe and I think now almost close to 9 years, you still on the top. I see you, you named after so many places, maybe in Gatti, maybe on Analytica, all the places, it's you who's, topping the graphs. So which is fantastic, and congratulations on the 9th year anniversary on Twitter. So how's your Twitter journey been? Because I see you have more than almost 250K followers. You have it's a verified Twitter account, and how has that been? How has that changed over years, from starting from 2013 till date?
Well, like I said, it's just been quite a wild ride, because of the not only just the sort of the focus of what I do, but how the focus has changed. So, for example, last year I spent a lot of I really got for the longest time I've been very interested in the sort of Internet of Things, because what Internet of Things are? These are sensors that are collecting tons of data. So I love data. So what better to love than the Internet of Things, because there's trillions of sensors collecting data. And I actually back in my day at the university, in my graduate course, I had a section in my course on what we called the sensor web. So that was the phrase we used back then. The sensor web was basically a web of sensors. So So basically, I said, the internet used to be a thing. Now things are the internet. All right. And so these streams of dynamic data measuring all kinds of processes, people, behaviors, things, engines, machines, e-commerce stores, the climate, everything we're collecting data on. And so basically collecting that data at the edge gives us insight to take actions and make decisions right at the moment of data collection. And so I started focusing a lot more in the last year on the Internet of Things until I was the number one world influencer in IoT last year. And a couple of years ago, I was really into digital marketing because I love marketing because it touches every aspect of human life, right? Whether you're marketing products or you're marketing experiences or you're marketing, everybody, right? Healthcare, businesses, banks, everybody wants to influence you to make decisions. So that's human life. And so I think of human behavior and data as being a great marriage of data science, because understanding and influencing people to make better decisions, take better actions, even in sciences, right? I mean, I've been even recommending best action for a scientist to do her next research study. So I started doing a lot of study and talks about digital marketing and how that connected all the dots in my sort of universe of using data to inform and inspire decisions. And so I became a top worldwide influencer in digital marketing, even though I know absolutely nothing about digital marketing. So I just want people to be clear. Okay, so I may be a top influencer in AI, but I'm not a researcher in AI, because sometimes I get AI researchers say, well, what have you done for AI? Okay, well, I have done some research, and a small amount of research in AI during my years at NASA, at the university, but that's not what this means. This means actually influencing businesses and individuals to pay attention to this, to learn this, to start using this, to be aware of this, to understand this, the risk factors, the safety factors, all these things I want to inform people about. And so I guess that's what it means by being an influencer, is I'm helping people to understand those things to make better decisions with AI or with whatever technology we're talking about. So I'm not going to stand up and claim I'm anywhere in the same par as people like Andrew Ng or Jeff Hinton, people like that, who are basically the world champion AI researchers. I'm not that guy, but I want to share what they do with other people and get people to pay attention to what they're doing, and hopefully I'm succeeding in a small way.
I think yes, definitely. I think there's a thick line difference between being a researcher and being a researcher and a practitioner and being an influencer. An influencer, like obviously, like Kate also mentions, the influencer first, second is the learning. So it is something, both are very different, but obviously you are sending out and influencing the best practices in AI, and that is obviously out of a little research that you do. And makes sense, Kirk. We have a few questions. I see Scott Taylor is here. Hey, Scott.
All right, Scott. We got all your friends here. All your friends from around the world are joining us today.
Yeah. It looks like a good morning for them. And
I want to shout out to all my friends. I want to shout out to all my friends in India. So, hello. I was so when Analytics Video had their first Data Hack Summit 4 or 5 years ago. I was their keynote speaker, and that was such a joy for me because I have so many friends in the Twitter and LinkedIn world in India. I think outside the United States, it's my biggest following is in India. And I just loved going to that conference. And I tell people the little stories that I gave the keynote talk at like 9 o'clock that morning. And after I got off finished talking, people came up to me and started asking me questions. And so the host of the conference said, he said, can you just take your conversations out in the hallway, because we got to have another speaker coming. Okay. And so we took the conversation out in the hallway, and all these people followed me. And 9 hours later, I was still talking to people.
Oh my goodness!
It's still 6 o'clock that evening, and
wow!
And there was a young man, a wonderful person who basically hosted me and took care of all my taxis and all my needs while I was there. And he came up to me like 6 o'clock that evening after I'd been talking with people for 9 hours. He said, Kirk, you have a very important meeting right now. We have a scheduled important meeting, in the speaker ready room. Can you please come now? And so I go back there and I said, what's the meeting? He says, we want you to just sit down and relax.
Relax. Oh yeah,
So I sat,
definitely.
so I
I,
sat down and relaxed, and I was just sitting there, just completely relaxing. And all of a sudden, everybody from the conference team comes in with a little birthday cake and saying "Happy Birthday" to me because it was my birthday, and I completely forgot because I was just so exhausted. And now
oh,
everybody there is so kind, and it was just a wonderful experience. And I just hope to come back someday.
no, yes, definitely. Was it in Bangalore by any
Yeah,
chance?
yes, it was.
Okay,
Yes, it
yeah,
was.
fantastic. I think I hope things get better and you come back for another conference. But I can only imagine someone talking for 9 hours continuously and answering those questions.
That's why.
It
That's why
can
I have
get
a drink with me here so I can clear my throat. Okay, I know I'm taking you away from your questions, but I also want to share something that I shared at that conference,
yes,
and,
please.
and that is two of my PhD students who got PhDs from me are from India, and so I have a pretty strong connection there. Uh, so I shared their stories and the amazing research that they've done. One of those people is now a researcher at Amazon, and the other person, she's actually the chief data scientist for Hitachi Vantara right now. So they've actually moved quite along. So there was that connection there, but I said I have even a more strong connection. So I'm the academic great grandchild. So you know what an academic child is, right? So my PhD advisor
Hmm.
was Jim
Yeah.
Gunn. His PhD advisor was Guido Munch. So Guido Munch was my academic grandfather. My academic great grandfather was Subramanian Chandrasekhar, one of the great astrophysicists and physicists, Nobel Prize winning physicists from India. So my academic great grandfather is Subramanian Chandrasekhar, and so I have the strong connection academically as well as
With India.
personally and socially through social media with you with
Wow.
all your friends and family and colleagues and like I said, I want to come back.
Oh wow. Okay, Kirk. Obviously, it is kind of shocking to hear this because there's a hierarchy and there's a complete, connection to your academics to India, and which is super cool, I guess.
Yeah, that's really special for me. So I shared that with my when this when I had my students at George Mason, these two students specifically, I brought them into my office one day and I said, I want to tell you your connection because now you are a PhD, my PhD graduate, and so your academic great grandfather is probably one of the greatest scientists, physicists, specifically from India. And they were just like in tears practically. I was in tears with them because it's a really it was a special moment for us.
Yeah, exactly. I think it definitely is like a happy moment for me as well, where you have a 1% as well connection with India, and it's a huge connection. So a good happy moment for us, being following you since years, and now I know why it is so strong. So thanks for that, Kirk. Thanks for that information. I'll keep that in mind, and definitely the day we meet in Bangalore, maybe or in Mumbai,
Yeah.
I'll get this up for everyone and would want to know more about it. Okay, Kirk, I have a few questions coming in. A question from Neeraj Satpal. What you are doing is commendable, Kirk. Making okay, he's talking about the DataPrime completely free for data professionals seeking job opportunities. Wow.
Yes.
So okay, so since he's spoken about Data Prime, I wanted to know, Kirk, obviously, since I recently saw that announcement everywhere, it was all over the internet that Kirk has joined Data Prime now. So, what exactly are you doing at Data Prime, and what's your current role there?
Well, first of all, I want to ask everyone here if you sent me congratulations on LinkedIn and I haven't responded yet. I'm sorry. I got over 1,000 messages like that,
Exactly.
and I got through some of them, but it's just been difficult to get to every one of them. So if you're waiting for me
I can only
to
imagine.
send you a reply, I just gave you one, but I hope to actually send you one on LinkedIn soon, one of these days, because there was just an avalanche of comments and support and
Oh,
encouragement.
yes.
It was just wonderful, but it was just like a lot happened all at once. And
So, to,
so DataPrime is a startup, basically about the day that I guess that I was announced as joining them as a chief science officer. So I'm on the
yeah.
leadership team as chief science officer. There was basically that day when that announcement was made was the day they basically announced their existence to the world. I mean, even though you could find them, they really hadn't made any public announcement. I mean, they had a website, they were on LinkedIn, but they didn't do anything to promote themselves or make themselves known to people until that day. And so we're a brand new startup. I mean, literally like 3 weeks out of the gate. We're building up a massive data collection of both job descriptions, job opportunities, and candidates in the data professions. And data professions includes everything, not just data science, but data engineering, machine learning engineering, cloud engineering, software development around data systems, data ops, ML ops, databases, Tableau, data visualization, data storytelling. Hello, all the any BI dashboards, you name it, anything that has data connected with it, we're collecting. We're encouraging people to upload their data profiles, and so eventually we're going to have enough data on the employers' jobs and on the employees to do a personalization match, best job to best candidate.
Wow!
But okay. we're fresh out of the gate. We're just gone public with this, and so we're encouraging people. Like Niraj says there, it's completely free for data professionals to upload your profile. I encourage everyone here to do that, because even if you're not interested today, maybe 2 years from now, something will happen. That happened to me back in the day when I was at George Mason. I saw this cool company, Booz Allen Hamilton, doing all kinds of great stuff in data science. I put my resume in their system. I put my resume in there and forgot about it. 2 years later, they called me up and made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And so if you're not ready today, and it turns out that the studies have been done, and I just conducted my own study. And if some of you probably saw my poll on LinkedIn, I asked people, when will you be thinking about your next job change? And the average is 1.3 years in the data science world. So people change jobs. And from my poll, I did it both on LinkedIn and Twitter. The median, I didn't ask them for a specific number. The median in this poll they took was around 12 months. Okay, maybe a little less than 12 months on LinkedIn, a little more than 12 months. People will be looking for a job on Twitter, which makes sense because LinkedIn is more people, a lot of sort of employment, job-related kind of things happen on LinkedIn. So anyway, so it's completely free for the professionals, data science professionals, to upload your profile, and I encourage everyone to do it, because the more we have there, the more we can then attract the employers to bring in their data, their job descriptions. And the job descriptions include all aspects of the jobs, okay, the skills, the aptitudes, the location, the salary, whatever they can give, then we can do that match. So the match becomes better and better and better. I mean, just like a recommender engine, right? If you have a small little store, if you sell bananas and apples, you can recommend one or two things to people. But if you're Amazon, you have hundreds of millions, if not billions, of products, and so your recommender engine becomes better and better and better the more you have. And so we're trying to build that sort of recommender engine to employers to identify the best candidates for their jobs. And so ultimately, the value proposition that we're making to our investors, and we do have investors. I came onto this thing, into this DataPrime, after they've already gone through their first round. Now they're going to be going to their next round this summer of investing. So they really believe this, that once we have this really good matching algorithm and a large volume of potential candidates, that employers will seek us out to help them find their positions. And so that's sort of where the value is created. It's the employers coming in and subscribing to the platform, not you, the data science professional. You will never be charged for this. In fact, hopefully you will receive ideal offers for jobs from this. Okay. And so, and so I'm not in the employment business, but a lot of the people who are the leaders in this DataPrime startup, they come from the world of recruiting, executive recruiting, and high-end professional technical position recruiting. And so my role as chief science officer is to oversee the data science, machine learning, and not tasking people to do things, but watching what's happening, advising, consulting, inserting whatever wisdom I might bring to the topic. So it's about the algorithms. It's also about the data. And it's also about the product. It's also about the platform. It's also about the user interface. And so data. I know you've had Bill Schmarzo, the dean of big data, on your show. Bill Schmarzo
Yeah.
years ago started talking about the importance of design thinking in data science, and I became a really big fan of design
Yeah.
thinking because we have to design whatever we're doing, even as data scientists. The end user is a human being. It's got to be consumable, understandable, explainable, transparent to humans. And so,
Right.
and so even in our platform, like any platform online, it has to be usable and friendly and enjoyable for people to access and use the platform. And we're very early days. I mean, if you've gone there and it looks a little rough, that's okay because we're 2 weeks old, right? So we're gonna get
Wow.
better.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna get better. We got UI experts and we got the data machine learning experts. And again, we had an advisory board who comes from the world of professional job placement for technical people. So those are the people who they know the business, and we got people who know the technology. And I'm just the science
Yeah.
guy watching.
No, but I think it kind of resonates very well with me, Kirk, when you say what DataPrime is actually doing. Is because the irony is I met someone just a few weeks back, and he's my one of my friend in US, and he's like, I'm looking out for a data scientist role, and it's been kind of difficult, because wherever I'm trying to apply, it doesn't give me the right, either the experience or it's not popping up the right requirements that the employer needs. And I think using machine learning algorithms and AI, it will Data Prime is making sure that there's no gap between an employer and an employee, and the right fit might just be bought in or maybe suggested by the employer. So I think it will be a win-win in the coming few weeks. I feel for the people who are looking out for jobs and also for the employers, because they can have something which is a very super tool by Data Prime. Sounds
Yeah,
very interesting.
yeah. And I think the just not to spend too much more time on this, but again,
Yeah.
it's sort of that sort of a jump, like going back to my old story about no, I haven't had many careers. I've only had one career as a scientist. This looks like a big jump from astrophysics now into recruiting. But for me, it's but the way I think about it is the way I've always thought about problems, which I learned as a physics student. Right, so in physics, you learn all about modeling systems. So there's inputs and there's outputs, and there's fundamental principles governing equations that govern how you map inputs to outputs, and that's what machine learning is. That's what data science is. You're trying to map inputs to outputs, right? And you have whether you call them equations or functions or just governing principles. And that's same thing applies to job placement, right? You want that ideal candidate for the ideal job, right? So there's inputs,
Yeah.
which are your skills and aptitudes and interests and preferences, and then there's the
Exactly.
employer job description, which also has interests and preferences for the type of person they want. And so
Yeah.
so understanding the data on both sides and understanding the algorithms that connect the two things, that the mapping, otherwise known as an algorithm, the mapping that connects the two. Again, that's the scientific thing that really turns me on about this problem, because it brings me all the way back to my 400 physics courses. What it felt like 400. All those physics and math courses I took in college. It's all. I mean, even though I used that for decades as an astrophysicist, it's like really real here because it's like a new field for me now.
Exactly.
Recruiting, you don't think about that as physics, but the physics of recruiting is again mapping an input to an output response, right? Okay, so you got input data, and then you want the output response is the ideal match
True.
job recommendation. And so, what are the governing
Wow.
equations? What are the governing principles? And we're having those conversations every day. I mean, so the algorithm is getting adjusted, discussed, and updated, as we speak. Again, we're not a young
Yeah,
company.
exactly.
We're testing it. We have some beta testers who are are pretending they're looking for jobs, and we get recommendations to them, and they give us feedback on whether no, that's not me, that's not what I'm looking for. And I
Okay.
think that sort of human interaction is critical in all of our machine learning. That is, people don't just build a machine learning algorithm and deploy it. We need other people, not the team that built it, to look at it and say, no, that doesn't look right, or that looks wrong, or I see some bias here, or I see some some incompleteness here, or whatever it is. You got to have those you have to have those conversations with other people who aren't the people who designed and built it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that definitely makes sense, and thanks for sharing that, Kirk. Obviously, there was a follow-up question from Neeraj. What do you see as a bigger challenge for business: dirty data or lack of data science data? Yeah.
Uh, not quite sure I understood that last part there, but certainly dirty data is a big problem. I mean, it's lack of clean data, perhaps, or lack of sufficient data. So this takes me back to my Internet of Things story, because I think the more different data sources you have, the more context you have to make a decision, right? So you don't make a decision just upon one sort of narrow point of view. You have the context in which that thing lives, right? So I think about a self-driving car. I always use self-driving car as an example. If all I had was one camera on the front of the car and all the camera did is look straight ahead, that would be insufficient to drive safely, because you have to see what's happening around the car. Maybe there's children playing, or maybe there's cars coming from a side street. So you need all kinds of contextual information, not just what's happening directly in front of you. And so whether you call Internet of Things or just other data, alternative data sources, contextual data sources. Now, yeah, a lot of that will be dirty data. I think dirty data is frequently a challenge.
Yeah.
I see Niraj corrected this question. Data science talent, yeah.
Yeah.
There are those are two big challenges indeed. Data science, lack of data science talent, and dirty data. So I don't want to like have a competition and say which is worse, right? Of course, we all know that 80% of data scientists' time are spent cleaning and preparing their data, and the other 20% of their time they spend complaining about cleaning their data. But anyway, so all those things are challenges in the field, and this is why this is such an exciting field, because we have challenges on all sides. And I think we as human beings, especially people who are technology and science oriented people like we are, we welcome challenges. We do what we do because we love to solve a problem, right? And so yeah, all these things are challenges, and they haven't been solved yet. And I think that's one of the lessons from the past 12 years of the data science revolution, is that as fast as the job candidate pool grows, because when we started the first data science degree program in the world, we were the first, right? And within a few years, there were 2 or 3 more, and now there's literally thousands of graduate programs, master's programs, undergraduate programs, boot camps, certificates. There's thousands and there's tens of thousands of new candidates every year being produced by these programs, if not hundreds of thousands. And yet the number of job opportunities is growing more rapidly than that. So the output talent might be growing exponentially, but the job opportunities are growing also exponentially, but faster. So the difference of 2 exponentials is still an exponential. Okay, so the lack of data science talent is a big problem. Dirty data, obviously, has always, since the dawn of humanity, been a big problem. Think about the first time some army general lost a battle because he had bad intelligence. Right? I mean, dirty data has always been a problem. Or you take your tribe out to hunt for your family meal for the day, and you got bad intel, and you go the wrong direction, and you don't intercept the herd that you were tracking all week. Okay, so anyway, so dirty data is never seems to go away. So we have to certainly pay attention to that as well. So I don't know if I'm being too wishy-washy for that question, but they're both big challenges. It's just like when people ask me, I do these data science meetups and stuff, and there's always someone says, people ask me, should I learn R or Python? And I say, yes.
Yes. Oh man. Yeah, exactly. It's just about your choice first thing, and obviously both are important. So go for it. But
I took you off. You had a whole bunch of questions. I took you off track here.
No worries, Kirk. Obviously, I'll just come back because I see a lot many questions on data literacy. First thing, obviously, my question was, I know you love data literacy and you love that as a topic. So can you tell the audience why data literacy is important today? And then we can take a few questions from the audience on data literacy.
Well, I've given lots of talks on this. So data literacy is not, that doesn't mean you're data science or machine learning literate, because certainly machine learning is high-level math, and doing data science involves the math and the coding, and not every person in the world should do that. But I think every person in the world should be data literate, because the world is digital, right? Pretty much everything you touch and everything you do, and all your interactions with it, whether it's healthcare or government or services or online shopping or anything, there's an E component, right? There's an information component, and the more we understand that, And especially since we all got these we all got smartphones, right? It seems like nowadays pretty much everyone with apps and all those things are generating data, producing data, using data. And I tell my students, it's that all those companies are making money off of that. Well, why don't you do that too? And so data literacy basically it's sort of like four things. First of all, it's just sort of recognizing data when you see it. And so data is everywhere, right? So it's images, it's text,
Right.
it's sound, it's videos, it's numbers, it's time charts, it's time series. I mean, everything is data. Everything is data. So recognizing and understanding data, then being able to work with it, that is sort it, group it, recognize patterns in it like anomalies, like dirty data, recognize anomalies or trends or correlations. Okay, so then that moves to analyzing. So what are these correlations? What are these patterns? What are these trends? What do they mean? What kind of value could they bring to me or to my company or to my organization or to my community?
Yeah.
And then actually, doing something about that, which oftentimes means communicating to other people the decision that you're recommending from the data. So
Right.
communicating with, or some people call that arguing with data. That sounds like, I don't mean arguing with people, but I mean, in the same way a logical argument is presented in a court of law, right? You make a logical argument from evidence. So being able to use data in a logical argument and to communicate, that's part of data literacy. So first recognizing it, understanding it, then being able to work with it, and then analyze it, and then communicating with data. So that's data literacy. So it's just like language literacy or numeric literacy. We all couldn't live and work in the world if we didn't have the language and
Exactly.
and it doesn't mean voice or just any kind of language literacy, whether it's reading or it's visual, speaking, listening, whatever. Language literacy, numeric literacy, and now data literacy is essential because the world is digital and data drives AI, data drives blockchain, data drives drones, data drives your e-commerce store, data drives everything. Data drives your self-driving car. Data drives all the emerging technologies of the world because it is coming off of digital devices. Digital information flows through those digital devices, creates it, generates it, uses it, and creates value. So everyone should get on board with creating value from data.
No, I think definitely that is great information on data literacy, and I know for a fact that there was a recent book, be it Data Literate as well, by Jordan Mordow,
Love
which
that.
is one of the best books I have, actually seen on internet today. And I think Kirk, you already own that book.
Yes, I do. In fact, I should have had all my books around me. I know that you, Ravit, have sent me so many books. Jordan sent me his book. Bill Schmarzo sent me his book. Well, he better, because I wrote the foreword for his book. Hey, look at that.
Yes, this book.
You see my name down there? There's my name on there. Yeah. I wrote the foreword for that book.
I know.
So I spent time on that, so you better read it.
Yes. No, I've read it, and definitely, I've been talking to Bill about the whole data monetization bit, because that's a topic to discuss. Obviously, Doug is one of the person who's out there who talks a lot about data monetization, and I would also want to know that more about data monetization, not in this session with you, but definitely I'll book you again for that whole topic.
Yeah, I just want to say that I've talked with Doug Laney. I have his book Infonomics. One thing I really like that he says is that he repudiates the notion that data is the new oil, because we hear that all the time. Data is new oil. So I just want to say this: I completely, totally support what he says, and I'm a big believer in it. And the way he explained it was so perfect, because oil is an expendable resource. Once you use it, you can't use it again. But data is a renewable resource. You can use the same data. You can use the same customer data to understand market trends, to understand to make recommendations to that customer, to understand product performance, to understand customer satisfaction, to understand supply chain and logistics and demand pricing. I mean, you can use the same data over and over and over again and create value from. So data monetization doesn't necessarily mean how many dollars, even though we should measure it in some kind of unit like that. but it means or how are you creating value from data? And so
Yeah.
value is whether it's in efficiencies or actually something you sell. Either way, you want to see it in the bottom line. And so that data
Right.
monetization comes about not just from using that data once and getting rid of it, it's using it over and over and over again. So some people say data is the new sun or the new electricity. I mean, I don't really, I think it's too silly to get into those metaphors, but the one that I just don't want to ever agree with ever again is data is the new oil, because it's a renewable resource. The value creation can continue.
Hmm. Very interesting, and thanks for sharing that experience. And I've actually heard data is the new super oil. Mike says data is the new super oil. Kirk would not agree to that too. I
Okay,
know.
well, I think he should write a book on that because, hey, Mike, you hear me? I'd be interested in reading it. I'm not sure how you're going to convince me, but I'm willing to listen. I just saw in the
Yeah.
questions here, people are asking about university degrees in this field. I do want to answer that
Yeah.
because it comes up frequently. And I tell
Yes.
people that, I get this all the time. People say, "Do I really need a university degree? Because I can finish a Coursera course and get job offers." And this is true. So it's
Exactly.
really true that anybody, and I do mean anybody, any age, can learn this stuff, because we are humans. We are built to be learners. That's what humans do. That's why we have all these sense. We have our own internet of things. We got eyes and ears, and sound, our mouths. So we sense our world. So we're learning. We can learn, and that's what humans do. So anyone can learn this, and you can get a job. But if you really want to have a career in this, I think having a professional degree helps you in the progression of your career. So yes, you can get a really great job as a machine learning person. Well, one thing I know from 40 years in the profession and in the science profession is that these I don't want to call it a fad, but these sort of hype cycles come and go. Like what really is hot for employers today might not be the same thing 10 years from now. So you
Right.
might be the world's best Python machine learning coder, but 10 years from now, maybe all that stuff is going to be already solved, right? There's going to be all these things are going to be embedded in the software already, or embedded in the cloud, which all businesses are all businesses
Very
going
true.
to the cloud anyway. The cloud service providers have armies of people developing that stuff, and there's only so much math that you can reinvent. so 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 for a long successful long career with professional development, and not keep doing the same thing for 40 years, which I don't think is a pleasant way to think about a career, doing exactly the same thing. Even if it's what you love doing today, it might not be 40 years from now. So the
Yeah. Exactly.
professional degree will help you in that progression. But yes, you can get started now without a degree, and move from there. So if you go to a college degree, I always tell people that, but if your choices are like bachelor's degree, master's, or PhD, I say PhD is a research degree, right? So if you intend to be a researcher, whether at an academic research institution like a university, or a research lab, if you're not going to be a researcher publishing in journals, scientific journals, then the PhD is not necessary, right? Yeah, if you want to get a PhD, that's fine, but the career path, most often than not, is an academic career path, which is very different from the other career paths that data scientists follow today.
Yeah.
If you want a bachelor, if you go for a bachelor's degree, that's sort of like the foundational basics. It's not necessarily the professional content, that will get you like a promotion. So a master's degree tends to be that sweet spot for the career advancement. I mean, not that you need it to start. You don't need it to start, but if you want to make that career advancement, showing that you have those advanced professional courses and professional training helps.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'm not discouraging anyone to do anything. I'm just making clear what kind of things you can expect if you
Yeah.
follow one
Exactly.
of these paths. But if you just want to take some Coursera or Udemy or DataCamp courses or analytics video courses, and I know they got a lot. If you just want to take that and go forth from there with a job, go for it. Do it. Go do that. But
Yeah.
keep
Exactly.
learning. Never stop learning. Whatever you're doing, just never stop learning. And that's why I'm here today. I mean, I started in physics
Mm.
and astronomy. I was when my first job at NASA, they threw me into working with databases. I didn't know what a database was 35 years ago. Databases were in banks. No one used databases except in banks and financial institutions. But I was forced to learn it,
Exactly.
and then all of a sudden I was doing data systems for NASA for 20 years, and then all of a sudden this machine learning came along, and it was a whole new world for me. I had to open up new textbooks that I'd never opened before, and so just keep on learning. Uh, that's going to get you all kinds of interesting opportunities, and plus you're just gonna have a lot of fun along the way, and you'll probably get invited to the Ravit Show, and that'll be even more fun.
No, thanks, Kirk. Obviously, you've shared gold. Where, and this is a very important question. Always people kind of have that myth where you need to have a university degree to get into a job, but you've clarified that it's more about keep learning and keep upskilling yourselves. Maybe someone today who's a master in Python might not be the same after 10 years. So definitely makes sense.
I was
And
I was a master Fortran programmer. I mean, I started.
oh, okay.
I learned programming in high school back in the day when no one even knew what that was. Right nowadays, of course, everyone learns coding. Even the kindergartners learn coding with Scratch, right? But I learned Fortran in high school. Did it all through college and graduate school. I wrote the entire proposal processing system for the Hubble Space Telescope. Using combinations of SQL and Fortran, the
Yeah.
VAX VMS system, and a few other things. I wrote models of colliding galaxies with black holes
Yeah.
in the middles. I did all kinds of. That was my research: colliding galaxies, merging galaxies.
Wow.
You can look it up. I wrote. I was all based on Fortran. I did that for 20 years, and all of a sudden, no one was using Fortran anymore, except in the really high-end scientific research labs, like nuclear fusion, and climate change. There's still a lot of fundamental, scientific
Exactly.
programming required for those high-end jobs. But otherwise, people aren't using that field. So what I believed and used and got success with for 20 years, no one even mentions in job descriptions anymore.
That's so true. And we had Scott here who says you say no to the data is the new oil. So yes, he agrees there.
I see the data whisperers whispering something here.
Yes,
You're
something
here.
very important, definitely. Yes. We
Say
had
no
a
to
question from
Ditno.
Gaurav.
I'm not sure what that means. Scott, what is Ditno?
It's data is the new oil.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
TNT.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Duh. Sorry.
Uh,
I should know. I worked at NASA for 20 years, where everything was an acronym.
oh yes.
So we used to joke that NASA didn't stand for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. NASA
Yeah.
actually stood for the National Administration of Superfluous Acronyms.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway,
Was that made up in the campus or something?
no, it was just made up by me.
Okay.
It was just me. Sorry, no one actually said that. Just me. Sorry.
Okay. Sounds good. Kirk, we had a question from Gaurav. We do exploratory data analysis on data to understand it by understanding patterns and trends in it. Can I call it data literacy?
That's even beyond data literacy. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So remember, data literacy is both understanding, analyze. Working with and analyzing it, and then making decisions. So exploratory data analysis is data literacy on steroids, because you're doing all those things, specifically that part to understand the patterns and trends in order to inform decisions. So I guess the one step that comes after this would be the communication step, like being able to communicate what you learned, the data storytelling, if you want to call it, the communication phase of data literacy, being able to explain it. I always tell people data literacy, data storytelling should really address three questions: the what, so what, and now what. What did you discover? Why should I care? And now what can I do about it? Okay, so if you can answer the three questions, because every business leader, stakeholder, whether it's your boss or your investors, in our case at a startup, they're going to ask the question, why should we care? What did you do? Why should we care? What should we do about it? And so that's that communication thing that brings it right back from the technical stuff you did to the very human way of explaining it. So exploratory data analysis, I just call that having that first date with your data, right? So have your first date with your data. Look at the patterns and trends, see what's good about it, what's not so good about it, what you can do about it, So get up and close and personal with your data, and said that is all part of data literacy. And that last phase is to then explain what you learn and what people should do about it. Why should they care?
Yeah.
So what, now what question? So that brings exploratory data analysis full circle into data literacy on steroids, basically.
Mm. I think definitely that answers Gaurav's question. Also, I see someone from NASA has joined in. Hello, fellow NASA vet. I spent 10 years with NASA. It's a LinkedIn user. I don't know, maybe because of the privacy. But feel free to write your name. We'll see who it is. And I had a question for you. Obviously, we're talking a lot about data literacy. So, Kirk, where do you actually see data literacy going in next 2 to 3 years? Because obviously, it is one of the most important things that if you are in data, like the field, if you're a data professional, you should first know what data is and be that data literate. So yeah.
Well, I think first of all, probably almost everybody on this call today is data literate, right? I mean, the very fact that you are still here 53 minutes into this conversation, if you're still here hearing me say that, you are already data literate. So where data literacy is going is that more and more organizations are going to recognize the importance of it. There are a lot of studies. I've given talks on this. I don't have the articles in my head right now, but there's a lot of studies and Jordan Morrow includes a lot of this in his data literacy book. I encourage people to look there. The statistics show that companies who don't focus on data as a sort of a literacy within their business, whether they call it data democratization, data understanding, data exploration, whatever, data-driven decision making, whatever you call that, those companies that don't do it are showing basically losing market presence, right? They're sort of losing market share to companies who are focusing on data and employees who are data literate. So what I think is that we're going to see more companies paying attention to this and more companies demanding data literacy upskilling for their employees. And so one of my side hustles is doing that. So I'm actually working with a person up in New York City. She actually is ran a training company. She did professional business training. Her specialty was product management. Okay, so she taught product managers in her training company. Then she lost her company for whatever reasons. Anyway, I'll just say that she lost her company, found herself out of a job in her late 50s, and now she's suffering from ageism. So ageism is a form of bias where you don't hire a person because of their age. All right, and she's suffering from ageism. She can't get another job, and so she and I have hooked up together. And we started this as just a freebie, as just no charge to anybody. We invite people off the street. I've done it twice in New York City. Just random people come in and we teach them what data is. I spend 4 hours telling them data stories. We play with Legos. We play with all kinds of funny little things, and we teach people. I show them like a cash register receipt from a store, and I say, "What do you see here?" And they say, "I see a receipt." And I say, "Well, I see data." And I talk about all the kinds of data there, where the store is located, the time of day, what did I bought, how much did it cost, how much did I buy. So the focus is bringing people, upskilling people who have no idea what data is, and they think of data as a 4-letter word. So we actually going to rename our course, because one of the people we asked, a person who was over 70 years old, she said, "I walked in here not knowing what to expect, except you offered me free coffee and free donuts, so I decided I would come." And she said that she was so amazed that she could learn. I said, "Yeah, you can learn." And that's the whole point of this, is to teach people they can learn. And she said, I said, "So what did you learn?" She said, "I learned that data is not a 4-letter word."
Yeah, exactly.
So some people argue with me. I have people argue with me when I say that. "Well, Kirk, it is a 4-letter word." I said, give it up. It's a joke, people. Okay, don't argue with me about a joke. Don't argue about the punchline on the joke.
Yeah, I think definitely. So how often do you do that? Is it daily that you put out 4 hours?
We started doing that in 2019, and then this thing COVID happened.
Oh, okay.
So we haven't done it since then. But we were online together last week. We did Facebook Live together last Tuesday, talking about it. So Deborah Albert. So watch for Deborah Albert. So she's involved with Lean In. So I don't know if your audience is familiar with Lean In. It's an international women's a professional women's advancement, professional advancement organization. So I don't know, 30,000 chapters worldwide, and I guess it was started by Sheryl, or co-started by Sheryl Sandberg. I guess that
Okay.
she's the CFO at Facebook. I'm maybe I'm wrong. Forgive me if I'm wrong there. But anyway,
Oh,
so she's
yeah.
promoting, my friend Deborah. She's promoting data literacy to her lean-in community. She's the regional director in New York, up in New York State, New York City. Anyway, so we're promoting data literacy as part of that upskilling to help people in any stage of career or life, whether it's a stay-at-home parent, or returning to work, or a returning veteran, or maybe even a person who doesn't have any education. They're just trying to figure out how they can get a job in today's world. This is for everyone. This is anyone. Like I said, you don't need the PhD or the bachelor's even. Just you can start out of the gate once you start learning things about data. One of the more sort of counter examples from that course that we taught, one of the guys who came was a PhD in mathematics, and he says, "I'm going back to school to learn this stuff." I mean, you figure here's the guy who's got a PhD, and now he says, "I got to go back to school to learn more of this stuff."
Oh my goodness. You can only imagine how sometimes we feel that we are data literate, but you're not. And it's the simplest things that we look at, and it is just not there. Because obviously, a person, having a look at data, they know more about it. So it makes sense.
But the funny thing is, it's both true and not true what you just said, right? There's more to it than you see, but we're already natural because we have eyes and ears and everything. So we're already taking in sensory information and making decisions every single moment of our life. From the time we're born, we recognize we're hungry, we recognize our parents' voice, we recognize our mother's arms all around us. So we're sensing things already and making decisions about, I'm going to cry because I'm hungry, or I'm going to cry because I don't see my mother in front of me. So I got 4 grandchildren, and one of my grandsons is very young. And when his mom leaves the room, he gets very unhappy. So we're already good at recognizing patterns in data. We just need to recognize that is now really a business proposition, not just what we were born with our eyes and ears.
Yes. It makes sense.
But there's still more to it than just that. So like you said, there's still stuff to learn, but you can learn it because that's just how we're wired. We're wired to learn. Machine learning is doing nothing more than what we're wired to do. We learn from past experience. One of the best definitions I ever heard for machine learning was the first one I read 23 years ago. The first time I started hearing about machine learning at NASA, I said, "What is this stuff?" So I got a copy of a book by Tom Mitchell, which I still think was Tom Mitchell, one of the greatest machine learning guys in the world. I actually met him in person once, and I thanked him profusely.
Wow.
His definition in his book was, machine learning is the set of mathematical algorithms that learn from experience. Or more simply, machine learning are algorithms that learn from experience. And when I first read that, I said, that made no sense to me. What is he talking about? Until as the years went by, I realized exactly what it meant. It learns the patterns in the historical data, which is experience, to build a model. So you call that supervised learning, but we also learn patterns in data in unsupervised learning, and even in reinforcement learning, we learn about patterns in data to make better decisions. To make the decision process is nothing more than a prediction process. That is, if I do this, will this happen? If I do that, will that happen? And so I tell people that machine learning and human beings and raising teenagers can all agree that one thing that unites all of these topics, raising teenagers and doing machine learning, is that good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment.
Yes.
Because when we train our models, we always measure error, and we back propagate the error to improve our models. Otherwise, if we're not using a holdout set and doing cross validation on our machine learning, and back propagating to change the hyperparameters and tune the model, then we're not really doing machine learning. So you learn from bad models. So I always tell people, if I interview you for a job, I want you to tell me about your wrong models first. Don't tell me about your good models. Tell me about your wrong models,
Wrong
and how
models, right?
because we learn from those experiences, and that's very important.
Wow.
Anyways, so I think
I,
we've killed our
yes.
hour. I think we've killed our whole hour here. It's dead.
But I'm enjoying it. I'm
The
enjoying
hour is
it
dead.
definitely. Yes, but one last question that I'll be picking from the obviously from the audience is from Shruti Jain about storytelling. So, can you tell us some tips on data storytelling for presenting our data science project in an interview?
Well, first I'll go back to
Yes,
my
please.
three. Make sure you answer the three questions. What, so what, now what. You have to tell what you did, um, why it matters, or why it mattered to whoever you did it for, because hopefully you did it for some purpose. Why you did it, why
Yes.
it matters, and then what was the outcome? What to do with it? The what, the so what, and the now what. And so another way I like to
Yes.
describe this is that anyone can talk the talk. Anyone can just use the buzzwords in a sentence. So don't in your interview just try to impress people that you know how to use fancy words and sentences. Like deep learning and back propagation and convolutional neural networks and recurrent network. If you're just using buzzwords in a sentence, you're talking the talk. You need to do more than that. Okay, so really successful hardcore data scientists, you're doing what I call you're actually walking the talk. You're doing the hard stuff. You're doing you're doing those things. But in data storytelling, you got to flip the script. You have to talk the walk. All right. So talk the walk means now
Right.
describe it in common language to people, the hard technical things you did. So one of the successful characteristics of a data scientist is, among all the other things like creativity and curiosity and communication, there's empathy. Because not everyone's going to get this. You have to have empathy with the audience,
Yeah.
empathy with the stakeholder, empathy with the business owner, empathy with your investor, whoever it is you're talking with. They may not get all the terminology and mathematics and coding you're talking about,
Yeah.
but tell them that in a personal way, in a human way, the what, so what, now what. But don't just use the buzzwords in a sentence. Just tell them the hard stuff you did, but try to explain it in a way that they can recognize the value in it. And so
Yeah.
so that empathy is basically putting yourself in that other person's shoes. What do they want? What do they want to learn from you? Do they want to learn that you know mathematics, that you know this latest Python library? No, I think they want to learn that you are going to be a valuable team player. You're going to contribute value. You're going to be able to communicate that value, so not just to them, but even to their stakeholders, because ultimately everyone has a boss, right? So put yourself in their shoes and say, how can I help that person? And
Wow.
so I think for any job interview, whether it's data science or anything else, you always got to put yourself in the shoes of the interviewer, because they're in a position too where they want to make sure they got the right person. You want to make sure you got
Right.
the right job. So you're both shopping, really. So it's okay that you don't necessarily might not like the job that's being offered to you, and they may not like you for the job. And all that is a learning
Yes.
experience. And so just go in there with the joy of learning and say, I'm going to learn from this, whether I get the job or not.
Yes, that's so true, and that definitely makes a lot of sense for Shruti. I'm sure about that. Also, we had a few comments. It says, "Great insights. Machine learning and humans are closer than we think." Yes, Mike, agreed completely. And Murat was here. Murat says, "You are a pure inspiration." Murat recently wrote a book as well on AI Thought Book, a fantastic book. It's on my way, so I'm waiting for that. I couldn't. African actually. Just the last one from audience that I'm taking, which is, what's one thing that from your career that you're proud of, Kirk? Can you tell us about it?
I guess I'm most proud of my humility.
Yes.
Sorry. No.
No, I agree about that.
That's
Yes.
that's a really hard question, because I've had so many very fortunate experiences. I mean, just unbelievable. But I think the mentors that I've had, I'm just proud that I was fortunate enough to have really outstanding mentors all through my career. Started with my graduate advisor, I mentioned James Gunn. One of my postdoctoral mentors, Vera Rubin. She's the next big American astronomical observatory is going to be named after her. One of the great scientists of the 20th century, discovered dark matter in galaxies. She was my postdoctoral mentor. My first employer after my postdoc working at NASA was Dr. Netta Bakal. She's now a professor at Princeton University, and she basically said, go and build, Kirk. And so she just gave me freedom to to build. I built the entire end-to-end, front to back end, front end, user interface, everything for the Hubble Space Telescope proposal, entry, and processing system, which every scientist in the world used. And when the Hubble was launched in the early years, until they got a more advanced system, because Kirk was not a software developer. But I was very proud of that, because it was used by every astronomer in the world who wanted to use that telescope. And she gave me the freedom. Dr. Nedabakal gave me the freedom to do that. So I'm just proud that I've had the opportunity to work with this amazing mentors and opportunity, giving me opportunities.
No, I think definitely. I think when you have great leaders and great mentors, your career tends to shape very well, and you're under that guidance where you have that light and you have that freedom to do a lot of things. So, which is fantastic, and it was great. Okay, now
look at this.
Wow.
This is proof. This is the award NASA gave me for building that system, a scale model of the Hubble telescope.
Wow, this looks amazing. I need a photo of it. Maybe after the session.
You probably can't read that achievement award.
I can. Kirk Borne. I can see the last. Okay, 1989 achievement award.
So NASA gave me this award for building that entire system, which was used around the world. So I guess I'm pretty proud of that.
This is incredible. Yeah, exactly. Oh, amazing. So Kirk, we'll just, I know we are up and I've killed more than an hour, but I'll just ask a few quick questions, fun rapid fire questions sort of. Can we do that? Like, it won't take more than 5 minutes.
Sure. Is your audience still here?
Yes. So
I see the comments and questions are coming in. I think there's.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to answer one. The person said, "What was the biggest obstacle?"
Yeah.
It may not be believable, but I growing up, I had the absolute worst fear of public speaking. When I was in even grade school, when I knew I had to present something to class, we had a show and tell. Little kids stand up in front of the class and you bring something and talk about it. I pretended to be sick. I told my mom I was sick. I put the pillow over my head to make sure my body heat went up. So when she measured my temperature, I was hot. So I got out of going to school that day because I was, and all through school and high school and college, I was deathly afraid of speaking ever. I couldn't do it. I was just absolutely terrified. And so you wouldn't believe that now, right? Because I do it all the time. But exactly. how I overcame that was actually yet another wise person came to me one day. I was preparing a presentation. I guess I was in graduate school. I was going to give a public talk at some of my research at a professional astronomy conference. I was terrified. And he said, this friend, he recognized this in me, I guess from just knowing me. He said, Kirk, I want to tell you something. He said, you will be surprised at how little other people think about you. And he was right. He was right, because all I could think about was if I say something wrong or I trip over some words, people are going to be remembering that and thinking badly of me afterwards. And he said, no one would ever be doing that. I mean, but that's the way my brain was working. I was thinking all these terrible thoughts about myself. And he said, Kirk, you'll be surprised at how little other people actually think about you. And by saying that, he just completely freed me up, just to not even worry about it anymore. And that was 40 years ago. That was 40 years ago, and obviously I don't worry about it anymore.
Just a fun question to follow up with this. How many speaking engagements roughly do you do in a year, Kirk?
Let's see. I only have 2 this week. It's usually a couple a week. It's either a podcast, a webinar, or a conference presentation.
Exactly.
So it's a couple times a week.
More than 100, what I can imagine.
Yeah. So actual conference keynotes, it's about once a month, sometimes twice a month, where I'm the invited keynote speaker, which helps me pay the bills. That's the fun thing about working at a startup, is that we don't have any clients yet, so so it's hard to get a salary when you don't have any business yet, which is fine because other things are working out for me. So so it's frequent.
Yes. Okay, Kirk. So with the fun questions, with the rapid fire, obviously I had this question: who are your favorite five data community folks whom you
Oh my gosh.
encourage to people to follow? I know there are many, but five people you want the audience to follow. For today, for the next session, I'll ask the other five.
Okay, well, there's too many. There's far too many. I mean, of course, Kate Strachny, who's out here somewhere. I hope she's
Yeah.
still here. She's just a phenom. Um, so Bill Schmarzo, I mean, he's just like teaching. If you follow him on LinkedIn, you're just being taught multiple times a day from his wisdom.
Exactly.
Bill Schmarzo, another person that I love a lot is Miko Yuk. She's a founder of BI Brains, a champion data science, a data storyteller. I mean, and Lillian Pearson. These are two people, both, and Kate. I mean, just think of these people how they basically created their own business. They created an entire
Business.
business model for around what they love doing, and that just impresses me. And there's so much content. They maybe deliver it in different ways. Maybe we'll see them so much active. Some of these people, like Miko, not so much active on Twitter and LinkedIn, but the content she delivers and the value she brings to organizations.
Fantastic.
So these people I just admire a lot. And then I don't like I said, there's just so many people I just can't even frame it in my head here. But there's people like I don't know. I wish I could just put I wish I could just put it
So
all
many.
in one word or two words, but it's just like I know so many dozens and hundreds of people well on my social
Yeah.
program. So I think another person,
No, I
just
think
I just want to throw one out there. One of my very earliest big time supporters on in social is Carla Gentry. She's done a lot of different things. Again, another person who was an independent consultant in the field for many years. Paved the way for this stuff, and so people who've basically done the work that they've built something. I mean, I think you can learn so much from people who
exactly.
built things other than just social influencer like me who's just talking about it. So now I'm in a startup, and now I'm
No,
in a
that's not true.
so this is the perfect book. This is the perfect bookend to my career, being at a startup, because I'm not just doing pure research, and I'm not just talking about things. We're actually building things. So maybe
Yeah.
that's so maybe that's good for me to get to learn how hard it is to build successful things. But all these people I just named have built successful things, and
No, I think
there's a lot to be
definitely,
learned.
Kirk,
A
what
lot
you've
to be learned from
done.
those.
Yeah, but what I think is, Kirk, what you have done is you've created a brand for yourself. You yourself is a brand, and you've created that over years of experience. So I'm not gonna let you go away and say no, I haven't created anything. You've created yourself,
Oh,
so
thank
which
you,
is fantastic.
thank you.
And okay, my quick next question is about the favorite books. Are there any favorite good reads that you would want to suggest at this moment, or that you're currently reading? Any of
Well, you know
those?
what? There's so much out there, as you know, you're constantly
Yeah,
sending me great
exactly.
books, I'm reviewing them as fast as I can. Uh,
Exactly, I know.
but I'm going to throw you a curveball here. I mean, a data science book. Okay, so I'll able to say that's still true. It's a data science book, but it's maybe not the one you would think of. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's something that I learned from years ago. It's actually called Data Mining Techniques. So Data Mining Techniques, and it's the third edition if someone's going to look for it. And the subtitle is it's Data Mining Techniques for Marketing, Sales, and Customer Relationship Management. Now, so
Wow.
you might think, what does sales, marketing, customer relationship management have to do with this? Well, I'll tell you, 20 years ago, I was just sort of getting on board with learning a lot of this stuff. And I was still at NASA, finishing my days at NASA, and I got a phone call from a University of Maryland person that asked me if I would teach a data mining course in their new graduate database program. They decided they needed this course in machine learning and data mining. And so for the first semester, I taught all this stuff, about neural networks and decision trees and all these different kinds of things. And I was just mouthing the words. And then I got a hold of this book, and I read this book. Then not the third edition; it was an earlier edition, but now the third edition is even better. And it explained neural networks and all these things in language that was completely understandable to me, because we all deal with sales. We are all right. We all are consumers, right? So we all understand
Yeah.
customer relationship management. There you go. So it's language that we all deal with every day, because we are all marketed to. We all buy things, We all like to be treated nice as a customer. And so when you read this book, they give you these very understandable sort of business use cases, but at the same time they're explaining in this book these complicated concepts around these different types of algorithms. And it was really the first time I really understood what a neural network. I actually worked on a research project at NASA where we built a neural network to predict the occurrence of wildfires in the wild across the world for climate models. And I helped to build the dang neural network model. And yet all of a sudden I said, oh, I never really understood what backpropagation was. I never really understood why we have hidden layers. I mean, I never understood why we had activation functions. It all just became crystal clear when I read this book. And I said, it's not hard to read this book. It's just great for giving you the language. And like I said, that very human language of describing things, like sometimes you need to describe this to other people. Anyway, so it's really not necessarily the one you might think I would recommend to you. It's not necessarily a new book. It probably doesn't have computer vision and
back in
deep learning. But I mean, once you got those foundational things, then the rest of it just sort of follows after that. And I just found so much value in that. And I think my students did too, because all of a sudden I was actually able to explain it as opposed to just mouthing the words, because I was anyway, that was the first time I was teaching actually that stuff.
Wow.
And I just they just asked me to teach it and I just said yes, and then I did, and then I was like, what what am I talking about?
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Anyway.
Okay, talking about books, obviously, Kirk, I wanted to ask you this question is, when do you plan to write a book? I know I've asked you several times about you writing a book, obviously, but now I really want to ask you, when do you plan to write a book? And if you plan to, what would that book be around? Would it be something around data mining or completely different?
Well, one of my goals after leaving Booz Allen a month ago was to write the book this year. Now that I got this job at this startup, there's a lot of other distractions happening, which is good. It's fine. It's just so I don't have quite the amount of free time I thought I was going to have this year, but I have to sort all that.
Obviously not.
Sort that out.
Yeah.
But I think we have an understanding, because as the chief science officer, for the startup, one of my roles, I guess, is as being able to stand in front of investors and the community and talk about this from a very data science perspective, and not just from a software development, platform perspective. Even though the platform's cool, that's not why I'm there. I'm there to talk about more the higher level science. What are we doing scientifically? And so one of the things which I've always loved, as I've already mentioned earlier in this presentation, was the Internet of Things, sensor data, streaming data. So the book I'm thinking about is around those dynamic. There's a phrase for this. It's called dynamic data-driven application systems. So you actually can look this up on the internet. There's a whole field of research that started at the United States Air Force Office of Scientific Research, and it was just basic research about dynamic systems that are rapidly changing, and you have sensors in those environments. And so just one example, they talked about like putting out a wildfire, putting out a burning building. If you actually have like a digital twin, a model of that building, you can recognize where the fire would spread to. So it's a very dynamic system, and data informs the first responders of how to respond to the fire. So that was just one example that they gave of how data gives insight into decision making in very dynamic situations. And so I'm thinking about something along those lines, but in a broader context, obviously, than just burning buildings. I'll probably have a chapter. I'll probably have a chapter on burning buildings in the book.
I think definitely the world will have eyes over that book, and can't wait when it happens. When obviously we'll let the world know, and I'm sure you'll tell the world that it will be out soon.
Soon is the qualitative word, right? Not quantitative.
Exactly, I know. Also, Kirk, just one question. Which has been your favorite podcast? Which podcast do you usually listen? And you're like, okay.
It's got to be this one. the
Huh?
Ravit
Seriously?
Show. I actually do podcasts. I don't really listen to too many because I do.
Exactly.
It's about once per week, actually, not every week, but it's about that. So different. A lot of bad people have podcasts. And I'm gonna start my own. That's one of the things that I didn't
Wow.
mention. So if you go to the DataPrime.ai website, right at the top, right on the top bar, menu bar on the website, it says Kirk's Corner, corner with a K because Kirk has two Ks. So
Yes, I
Kirk
know.
Corner.
Yes.
But, and I'm going to have a podcast. I'm going to have latest hot topics in the field of data science, short tutorials on data science topics, interviews with people like Ravit Jain, for example, and things like that. So, but anyway, so yeah,
Wow.
so definitely, I love your podcast, and I encourage everyone to go and watch your shows. You,
Thank you, Kirk.
you
That's
are
a that's a
you.
compliment.
See, when you said top five people in the field, I would mention you, but that sounds like self-serving there. But I really do.
No, no,
I,
yeah, exactly. No,
but
I
no, but
wouldn't
I
want to.
greatly admire how. I mean, you've really just taken the world by storm, and things you're doing here, just really advancing the field in terms of the communication and knowledge sharing that goes on through your podcast and through the people you interact with and the things you do in your publishing world. It's just phenomenal. So congratulations to
Thank you very
you.
much, Kirk. It's just, I think it's just the way, obviously I've learned things from people like Kate Strachnicki, people like you are there. And thanks for always being around there. And thanks
Yeah.
for that compliment, obviously. But talking about Data Prime, I really like the website. I think I'm visiting it for the second time, but it's very cool.
Yeah, people
You
are
say
work.
it's still in the making, but very cool.
Yeah, it's still evolving. Like I said, we're just early days. Still getting a lot of feedback from beta testers, but the uploading your profile is there. Encourage people to go
Okay.
there. So if you click on that, yep, for data professionals, you start by just
Wow.
setting up a username, password, and uploading your
Okay.
profile. So it's not just resume; it's also what are your interests and preferences in terms of where you like to work.
Yeah.
What kind of salary preferences like that. Yeah, we'd all like to make $1 trillion a year, but that's not going to happen. So be real, be realistic. No, but I mean,
Uh,
we got to be realistic. I mean, obviously. So the
yeah.
expectations that, but it's a lot more. It's skills, talents, aptitudes, education, past experiences, and it's like any recommender engine. It can only be better the more data it has. And so, this is all obviously protected data. No one's looking at it. The algorithm's looking at it. People are not looking at your data. The algorithm is looking at your data,
Wow.
and it's
I
trying
think
to.
that this is lovely. Yeah. This is awesome, Kirk. I think a great work by Data Prime team. Already in the early stage itself, it is like a full-fledged package that any employee or employer might get out
Yeah,
of it.
yeah. And
So,
one
yeah,
last word about this and my
yeah.
role there is if there are very senior people in your audience today, or if you know very senior people, we
Mhm.
also uh, place very senior people. So,
Wow. So
so,
you
so
moving
two
on
of
to
our
stages
two of
again.
our directors are from the field of executive search. Okay, so they have experience in placing senior executives and premier positions. So this is from the entry level
Wow.
people all the way up to like VP, CEOs, chief technology officers, chief data officers, chief data scientists, very senior people. So some of these people, Melissa Moore, Lance Coleman, there's some names you saw there. They
Yes.
have a lot of background here that well, that they if you're a senior executive, there's a sort of another pathway that you can communicate with me. Uh,
Mm.
that doesn't have to go through the profile uploading because obviously there's something very specific and a very
Yeah.
senior executive can offer
Obviously,
uh,
exactly.
to an
Yes.
employer, and then we need to have that specific conversation. Whereas,
Mm.
I mean so that's different, right? If you're a senior executive, that's a different type of role. But pretty much every other data professional, feel free to put your profile in there, no matter what level you are, or you dream to be 2 years from now. Because again, like I said, once you're in there, that phone call, like for me from Booz Allen, might come 2 years later, and what a pleasant surprise it was, and what a great career opportunity it was for me when that happened. You never know when it will
Exactly.
happen and what it'll look like. So just
But yeah.
enjoy your career is all I can say.
Yes.
My top number one advice to everybody, anytime, ever, is follow your passion. Do what you love
Okay.
doing, and
Yes.
just
I think definitely.
follow that.
Yes. Makes a lot of sense, and thanks for explaining through and taking us through the DataPrime. Obviously a great work, and I'm looking forward to how many more strides they'll be making. I'll make sure that I'm talking about that to my audience and people looking out for job. I know where I can at least show them a way where they can go and submit their profiles and get the best job that they're looking out for, and follow the passion like you said.
Yeah.
So, okay, we are into it. Kirk, it was fantastic having you on the show. Loved your energy. Always love your energy. But just one last question before for our audience before you leave is about where can people reach out to you if there's something they want to learn more about Data Prime, about your journey, about anything. Which is the best place they can reach out to you?
Well, I think well, you can email me at kirk@dataprime.ai. So that's right there on the screen, kirk@dataprime, or LinkedIn. Send me a LinkedIn message.
Yeah.
I may not respond immediately because my inbox is totally flooded every day, but don't let that stop you. If you have a question, I'll do my best to answer that as fast as I can. I'm extremely busy and active on Twitter,
Yeah.
but I get hundreds of notifications every day, so that it's less likely I'll see it there because I'm just flooded there. It's just not possible to keep up with all the notifications I get on Twitter. But you can try. You can respond to one of my tweets. Hopefully, I'll see it if you have a question. But generally, LinkedIn messaging would probably be my first choice. Direct messages to my company email will also work.
Okay.
But for just sort of general stuff, I think
This was fantastic, but Kirk, obviously, and what I'll do is definitely put your Data Prime email address for people. They can reach out to me. They can ask me. I'll give them that email address, and the other places are sorted. It was fantastic having you, Kirk. I enjoyed the conversation. Obviously, it's almost close to 1 hour 26 minutes, and I'm still like I can talk to you forever. But I'll let you go now. I know you're very, very busy, and respect your time. And thank you for visiting the Ravit Show.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure, Rabbit. I love what you're doing. Thank you for having me here. I don't mind talking, as you've noticed. So I'm glad. Thanks for the opportunity
Always, Kirk.
to share with your audience.
Always open for it.
It's really wonderful
Yes.
what you're doing. So
Thank you, Kirk.
all right.